all of you, and thanks a lot for joining us today. This webinar has been organized by Money Life Foundation, and we are a 10-year-old nonprofit, and our primary goal is to spread financial literacy and help address a wide spectrum of issues that affect us as a consumer. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank our esteemed speaker, Rahul Singh ji, the State Information Commissioner of Madhya Pradesh, and also thank Shailesh Gandhi sir, the former Central Information Commissioner, for taking time out of their schedule and to join us today. So I'm sure all of you are aware about the topic. Technology has enabled us to live in a world where everything is just a click away. So when everything is that easy to approach, then why shouldn't information, which is a fundamental right, be easily available? And it will ensure that there's a lot more accountability, and also it will ensure that citizens and their right to information is kept intact. So this is something that our speaker is going to be sharing about. But before I request him to take over, there are a few ground rules which I wanted to share with all of you. So one is, we've kept all of you on mute during the session for the benefit of all involved, and we'll unmute you only during the Q&A. For optimal viewing, my request is to keep the webinar on speaker view. This entire meeting is being recorded, and a copy of this will be uploaded on our YouTube channel, Money Life TV. During the Q&A, if you have any questions, my request would be to use the raise hand button option that's available on Zoom. Also, please feel free to use the chat section to share your comments, your questions, observations, but please send it only in the public forum, and please do not send us any private messages. We will not be able to monitor those. Also, please note your homes and your backgrounds are visible to all during the webinar. So in case you wish to protect your privacy, then I would request you to please switch off your videos. So I think now, without taking too much of your time, can I now request Gandhi sir to please introduce our speaker? Sir, over to you.
Thank you for this opportunity of introducing Mr. Rahul Singh. It's a pleasure. I'm fairly critical of most commissioners in the country, but I think Mr. Rahul Singh is an icon and ideal who others should follow. I wish others would follow him. He's very young, just 43 years old, but he's done amazing things. He was formerly a journalist with a whole host of agencies and companies, but now he's become a commissioner, and he may be one of the youngest commissioners in the country today. I would not be surprised. But more than this is the fact that he's been giving landmark orders and setting up new trends completely in how Information Commission should function. He's used technology, taken the step of saying that his hearings would be open to everybody, and therefore he does Facebook streaming. And when I think of Mr. Singh, it reminds me of Gandhiji's talisman, and I think he has imbibed that. Gandhiji had given a talisman in which he had said that when you are in doubt, think of the poorest or most disadvantaged man and ask whether the decision you are going to take is going to be in his favor and whether he will benefit. I think Mr. Rahul Singh has imbibed that and actually represents that. I wish other information commissioners were like this. Thank you for coming, Mr. Rahul. All over to you. Please start your talk.
Thank you, Shailesh Gandhi sir. And so 2 years back, I joined here Madhya Pradesh Information Commission as Information Commissioner. And let me begin with the challenges I faced initially. So when I joined the commission, the first thing I noticed that there's a huge pendency and there's no mechanism to address that. I only had one staff. The following month, I got another staff, a stenographer. And so after 2 years, the staff count still stands the same at 2. And since this act is all about the time-bound access to the information, now what I found that that if you don't address the appeal and the complaints in time-bound manner, the act loses its relevance and the objective. So and if you're going to address 3-4 years old cases, I mean, I had cases pending since 2015-14, and one particular case I remember about the university guy who had approached us. His appeal was pending, and he had sought answer books, answer sheets copy of those. So, but then when we had issued notices to the university told us that, that it's already been disposed of. Like they had the record rules which permit them to keep the record just for 6 months. So basically, the fact was that justice delayed is justice denied, and that's what the stark reality was there. And then another thing I noticed that most of the applicants in State Information Commission, they are basically from the rural background, and people used to and the farmers and all, and they used to travel at least 500 kilometers, and it's taking huge toll on their finance and all, because PIOs on the other hand would claim TA and DA, and they travel on the government fund. And here, the poor applicants, they have to manage all their way to Bhopal for attending hearings and all. So that was sort of like, and then how would you expect someone who is below poverty line, who is filing, whom you don't even expect to pay fee for the filing RTI application, but they also have to shell money to just to attend the hearing. So that was the time when I decided that I should be doing more for this hearing over the video conferencing, through video conferencing and all. But then again there was a problem, because the state administration has only limited slots for video conferencing. We only had twice a month. So I was the only commissioner, though I was lucky in a way, because the other commissioners were not that keen to use the video conferencing facility. So I was lucky enough to utilize both the slots. But again, the problem remains the same, because even when I was doing the video conferencing, that was suppose a state district headquarters, collector office would have that video conferencing facility. So all the farmers and the other people, those who are staying in that district, would have to travel all the way to the district headquarters. And then there are applicants those who are staying not in that district and the other districts as well. So the problem remains the same. For attending hearing, they have to travel that way. So that was not a solution. So then we have switched over to WhatsApp hearing. Now, WhatsApp hearing, again, it's a sort of I thought that it would be, since everyone is using WhatsApp, so it's more accessible. But then, WhatsApp video call had huge issues in rural areas. So it also failed. We had a lot of problem in connecting and network and all. So we gave up WhatsApp hearing even. So then I zeroed down on the tried, trusted old phone mechanism. So I start calling, applicants over phone and get them connected on a speaker phone. The conference call. And on conference call, I would be, and then I, change my formats as well, like the notices formats, and even I started issuing notices over WhatsApp. So I would be and then the entire, because the rules were like that, these people, so that was, So I was telling that when I had, when we had started doing through WhatsApp, so WhatsApp video call had a huge issue, because network was a major problem in rural areas. So then what we started doing, that we started serving notices through WhatsApp, and since it was accessible to everyone, and within 5-10 minutes they would get there, and then we'll make a call and get it confirmed whether they have got the notice or not. And then we started mentioning it as a evidence. We started mentioning the order sheet as well, that we have delivered this WhatsApp notices through WhatsApp, and we will take the screenshot of that WhatsApp chat, and we'll enclose it with the file, enclose it in the file. And that's how we started serving the notices through WhatsApp. And the compliance was like, we had an issue with the compliance, because if we pass order and saying that the information should be provided within 10 days, 15 days time, then what would happen, like, I mean, after 15 days, applicant would send us a post, and that would take another 10 days. So it would consume almost 1 month or 2 months period to dispose of an appeal. Uh, Here, what we'll be doing, like, like, I mean, if we'll say that, key, okay, if you got the information, just take this, just click the picture of that and send it right away on WhatsApp. And then you can send the hard copy as well. But immediately what you can do, like, so what happened in some cases, like, I'll share you an incident where I was hearing an appeal matter related to a pension of a old nurse, and she had an issue that she was not being paid some salary anomalies were there. So in that case, I had asked that the chief medical officer, that who was having the file, and he was sitting 500 kilometers away from me. I said, can you see the file? He said, yes, of course, the file is with me and I'll be providing the information. I said, no, you have to do it right away. Just after our this conference call, click the picture of that, send it to the lady, and then also send that the same WhatsApp, send us in the commission as well. So that's how, like, I mean, within 3 hours of the hearing, the information was provided. And later on, the hard copy, she also got the hard copy of that. So that was the beauty of this WhatsApp mechanism, because, I mean, we were all relying on the old age system, where the notices will be issued through post. And since there was huge delay on the part of the commission in addressing the appeals and the complaints, so it was not justified in by delaying it further. So I was just looking for some mechanism where we could address these appeals and the complaints in a speed, I mean, quickly. So that was the thing. And as I've told that, earlier the appeal disposal and the complaint disposal time was 2 to 3 months, and now it's been reduced to a week. And apart from that, I mean, there's a sort of win-win situation, I would say, for the government and the appellants as well, since appellant, they don't have to travel all the way from their villages to the state commission office. Now, for, I mean, even the government officers, they also don't have to travel. So since they were claiming TADA from the government, and they were like, they have to leave the office and travel all the way to Bhopal. Now they'll be staying in their station and then and attend the hearing. I mean, they just have to spare 15 minutes of their time over phone, and they could stay in their station. They can carry on with their work. And at times, what happened, like, I mean, I remember still, like, I mean, there was a PhD executive engineer, public health engineering department engineer, and he attended his call, I mean, appeals while working in a field. So he was there attending, he was on some site visit, and he attended the call from the site. And just for 15 minutes, I mean, we took 15 minutes, and hearing was done over phone, and he continued with his site inspection work. So that's the beauty of this entire mechanism. So it's a sort of win-win situation for both government employees and the staff, because working hours, like, if you talk about the efficiency and all, it definitely, because earlier the PIOs would be taking leave for 2-3 days and taking that's to at the costing the state exchequer. But then now that expenses have reduced. Like the postal, the commission used to spend a lot of money on the postal services and all. So that has been reduced, and it's sort of environment friendly as well, because we are not sending the hard copies. We are just sending PDF. We just send hard copies when it comes to the final order. That's to the penalty order. When we issue penalty, then only we send the hard copies. Otherwise, we just do it through the PDF format. And besides that, as here in State Information Commission, we had issue with the website as well. So the website was defunct, and it was not like, unlike the Central Information Commission website, if you've seen, you have the cause list and everything is there. The copy of orders, orders will be available. But in State Information Commission, we don't have that kind of mechanism here, and the website was defunct. So we have got the another website, but then it's still in building process, so it would take some time. So meanwhile, what happened? Like I was telling you about the staff issues and all. We had to address that. We have a very robust internship program, and where the national university students, they come and intern with us, and these people, these students, they've been trained in basically RTI in such a way that they know how to draft the order, the final order even, and that way we have trained 60 students, because every week, every 4 weeks, these students stay with us, and the new batch would come in. And apart from that, we've been introducing a lot of webinars and conferences, seminars as well. And every Sunday we would we hold a webinar, and then we are collaborating with the colleges for research and study at the commission. We want to know what kind of grievances and the appeals being filed before the commission, and so that we can if this sort of we can come around a conclusion that this nature of the appeals are filed more frequently, then probably we can ask the public authority under section 4 to make it online, these information. So that way we are working on that as well. And we have also collaborating with the National University to file to see the compliance of section 4, because there's a huge violation of section 4. These public authorities are supposed to maintain a 17-point manual in every offices, but they don't do it. So we have asked them to basically go through all the websites of these state departments and see whether there is a compliance or not, and accordingly they will be filing complaint under section 18 with the commission, and then we'll take up with the concerning public authorities. So this is how I am taking initiative so that the compliance of section 4 will be met. And when we do the webinars and all, like especially with the college students, I have one conditions. I would tell them that we will be issuing the certificate for attending the webinar, but then for that students have to file RTI. So and we basically help them filing RTI as well. So this is another initiative I will talk about. That's the GRD desk, grievance redressal desk. So what happened, like since I was telling you then that we don't have the kind of mechanism, the Central Information Commission has the website and all, and show cause list are maintained there. So here appellants used to, at times they would come from all the way 500 kilometers just to ask what happened to his appeal. So I said, no, this is not done. We should have a system in place where applicant, if they want to know about their appeal, they just have to message us. They can leave a message on our WhatsApp and all, or they can send an SMS, or they can call even. So I have provided a number which would be sort of like 24/7 kind of service, and where these appellants can call and inquire about their pending appeals and complaints. And if they wish to expedite their appeal and complaints, they can also do it there. And even if they are leaving a message at 8 in night or 9 in night, the next day in working hour. So our tagline is that within 24 hours that complaint will be redressed, whatever complaint is there. And apart from that, these GRD desk is also interested in the task of providing information about RTI. So at times PIO also call up. Recently I've been to Shivpuri district of Madhya Pradesh. I held a the seminar training session for the government PIOs. So I've shared the number of the GRD decks with these PIOs, And so they also call up on that GRD tax number and ask, they have their queries whether this information can be provided or not, and what are the provisions there, what are the citations, if there's any citation. So we keep on helping both applicants and the respondents as well in this case through GRD desk. And it's a, I mean, great learning experience for those who are handling GRD desk even. So what happened, like, I mean, I was talking about how to get youth involved in this whole process. So we have, in one part, you have seen that the interns who would be, you know, roping to basically, and we expect a lot of research works from these interns. Like, I mean, I keep on asking them, like, I mean, if you can get some research work on from the High Court or the Supreme Court, if there's some citation which we can, you know, put in our case. So, and apart from that, there are a lot of like PIOs who approach High Court, getting a stay on our order. I mean, if I would penalize them, they would run to High Court. So what I would do, I would ask these our interns to basically prepare a legal framework that how commission was right in penalizing that officer. So these interns, they prepare the entire framework for, I mean, the case study for the advocate, and these case studies are being sent along with the notice and all to our government advocate. So now the government advocate know that, like, I mean, that these are the on these basis this penalty was made, and this is how it can be justified. So this is one of the initiatives we have taken. And we had seen, like, I mean, the PIOs used to complain the appellant as well. They had this huge issue with the hearing. They would say that हमें तो पता ही नहीं चला कब hearing हो गई, या फिर साहब ने गलत ढंग से इसमें डिसीजन ले लिया है और ये गवर्नमेंट को ये सपोर्ट करते हैं. So we had these kind of, like, I mean, narratives around the hearing. So the PIOs, there was a sort of mistrust, like, I mean, they don't trust hearing and all. So I thought that it would be good idea to basically do the live streaming of our hearing, so that I mean, people, I mean, the parties involved, they know that this has been done in a very impartial way, and there's no pressure. And I would announce whatever the conclusion of that order or the judgment is there, I would announce there itself. So it's not like that I would hear the case and I would say, okay, appropriate order will be passed. No, I would do it right there, going live. So the PIO would know what happened in that order, and the appellant also know. Now, this is basically, this has, I feel that it has restored or emboldens or is strengthened the faith of people in commission, because they also, I have seen, like, I mean, viewers from other states, they've been, coming to the Facebook site and commenting that, अच्छा ये तो बहुत अच्छा आपका तरीका है और ऐसा ही होना चाहिए. So what's happening here is that, like, I mean, there's sort of awareness, like, I mean, the people, who don't know about RTI as such, and they don't know about the provisions as well. So they get connected and they know that now this is the act, and here this is how the commission functions. This is the power of commission, and this is a kind of, like, I mean, how the government functions, and the government PIOs trying to shield the information. So that's basically help people connect to the commission as an institution upholding transparency. So that was basically kept in mind while doing this Facebook Live, starting this Facebook Live hearings. And so as I've said that, that this online initiative, that has saved a lot of time and making information accessible to public. And that we could, as I said, that it was challenge was that because there was no system in place when we had faced the issues. And now all our appeals and complaints documents are sent within a time. And I've spoken with the public authorities. They also say that, like, I mean, it's a good initiative because PIOs are not supposed to come all the way to commission. So public authorities, their bosses are also happy. They're saying that, that it's a, I mean, these officers continue to work at their places and they can still attend the hearing. And but what I feel that, technology can make a huge difference. I was wondering, because it's coming from the journalism background, and we have seen the corporate working as well. So we know, that MIS system and all. So why it can't be done like through MIS system? Why this all PIOs? If they are not disposing of the RTA application, it should be reflected on their MIS, and so that it would be read after 30 days, and their the PIO's bosses would come to know, and then if they would clear, then only some kind of like mechanism should be made through MIS system and internal MIS system, and besides that, if that can be connected to the first appellate officer also, the appeal should directly move to, from filing RTA application, it should go directly to the first appellate officer, and first appellate officer also, if they couldn't do anything, then also it should show some sort of red mark on his performance, because I consider it as a dereliction of duty if the appellant officer, first appellant officer, is not hearing the case in a stipulated time period. So that's what I am also doing it, because I've been issuing show cause notices to the first appellate officers, that why I should be asking their seniors to take action against them for dereliction of duty under civil services rules. So, but then, since we all know that they are violating the rules and norms, so why can't be it done through MIS system? The moment, the PIO, fails to provide the information, he basically, while after 30 days, it should be reflected on his MIS, and then it should be directly moved over to first appeal, and if the first appeal won't do, then it should directly come to the commission. And that way, the entire system mechanism should be we are basically, what I'm talking about is been there for past 15 years, 20 years now. So yeah, I think it can be done, but then let's see, because it's a sort of I would say that I dream a lot, but then what I feel that, and I have seen that, that if you use technology and with a proactive approach, it makes huge difference. This is what all I have to say. And yes, of course, one more thing. Digitization was the issue. So since we don't have the mechanism in place, what we are doing, I'm doing in my office, that I get every order. Through phone, we ask our intern to take pictures of all the files, all the documents, and convert it into PDF. So we are digitizing these all the files, and we are updating the list of the PIOs as well, and that's how that's what we are doing at our levels. Though there should be, I agree that there should be some sort of well-oiled mechanism to do it, like in case of Central Information Commission and all. But then. But what my point is that, that though the system may be not that cooperative, or the atmosphere may not be that conducive, but if you got a will to do it, you can do it. And that's what we have been doing it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for that, sir. Really kind of you to do. I'm now going to request Shailesh Gandhi sir to preside over the next part of it. But before that, I just wanted to take a moment and introduce Shailesh Gandhi sir for the people who are here for the first time. So Shailesh Gandhi sir is the first activist who went on to become the Central Information Commissioner. He was at the Information Commission's position for 3 years and 9 months. And in that time, he digitized his entire office and had passed judgments of over 20,000 cases. And since then, he's been fighting passionately for the cause of right to information, for digitization of information, a lot of which Rahul sir had just shared. So I think I'm really happy that you could take some time, sir. So over to you, sir.
Thank you, Rahulji, for sharing your dreams. Those dreams sound beautiful. And I wish other commissioners take lead and get inspired by you. But tell me something. I mean, I'm also pursuing, incidentally, trying to persuade courts to go into virtual hearings because there the problem is more severe. Do you find that virtual hearings suffer anything compared to actual physical hearings?
Well, I would say that personal hearing is required only when you have to see the evidence or you want to examine some sort of documentary evidence before you. Suppose you have someone original copies of the file. So what PIOs can do in virtual hearing, they can fuzz the data or they can fuzz the document and they can send you some wrong information. And you can't, catch that kind of fraud if it would be carried out. So that's why for when we are examining the documents and all, then we would go for a personal hearing. And otherwise, because damage has already been done. Like, I mean, we are the PIOs hasn't redressed the application within the time-bound manner. And so is the case with the first appellate officer. So virtual hearing is the only way out. And that's the best way out. And and I would say that, the phone is the best way. Because, I don't see any point, why person should be called to that particular office. Why he can't do it from home? That's the problem. Once you make the system very complex, I have to go somewhere and attend something. And I have to, it should be if I'll be attending my hearing from home, doing my work, then I would be at ease. I can file my appeal and I can get it redressed without being harassed. So that way I feel that, that it should be done that way. Problem with the state commission is that, we have appellants who are basically not tax savvy that way. We had tried doing it over Zoom as well. But then, getting it installed on their phone and all, it's a big problem because like the farmers and all, poor people, those who don't know even, some of them don't have access to the smartphone even. Most of them do have, but then if some people don't have, so we want some kind of uniformity in this system. So that hearing over phone is the best way out.
In Maharashtra, there are 28,000 gram panchayats all across the state, which all have computers, internet connectivity, and a person employed to operate the computer and the internet. Isn't there something similar in Madhya Pradesh? Because then people could have access, even if they don't have access themselves, they could go to one of those centers instead of the NIC studios, which are limited in number.
Well, of course, it can be done that way. They do. We have 23,000 panchayats here, and all of them are equipped with computer, and it can be done. But then, problem here is that we are still struggling with doing it over phone, which is sort of more accessible. But we are still struggle to get our orders through the PIO. They don't see it, and then we'll issue further notices and then we would call them up. So it's and they would say, no, I couldn't notice, हमने देखा ही नहीं, और वो ऐसे बोल देंगे. But I know that कि देखा है, जानबूझ के नहीं देख रहे हैं.
A percentage of IT applications would be reaching the commission in terms of appeals or complaints, roughly, if you have a guess.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Compared to the number of RT applications, what percentage do you think reach the commission in terms of second appeals or complaints? Supposing 100 RT applications होती हैं, तो RTI applications appeal या complaint में commission को.
Something, I mean, what I feel that, like, I mean, it's all depend on the commission's working. If the commission is, there are two things to look at it. I mean, if the commissioner is proactive, then what happened? I mean, people would have trust in this system and RTI, faith in RTI, they start filing RTI more. But at the same time, because the PIOs also know that he can't go unpunished, so he does the redressal as well, right? And on the other hand, if the commission is not proactive, then what happened? People don't have faith. They stop filing RTI even. There are lesser number of RTIs. So, and then they, I mean, PIOs, violates the law at their will.
Exactly how much is the waiting time before you for an appeal or complaint to be heard?
See, it was like, I mean, we had orders pending since 2014 and 13 as well. I had heard cases of 2013 as well. So now we have we are running in 2018. But what I've done, I got a sort of like, a great kind of system. I would take some latest file, 2020 as well, 20 and 21, and like, I mean, and I would ask the interns to basically scan all even the applications appeals which are being sent, and take 1 or 2 appeals from that as well, even before it get registered. So we just keep 1 or 2 appeals, so that the PIO would know that we are there. Though, I mean, kind of like psychological kind of thing, like, I mean, if the violation is being done just for 3 months, 4 months back, and the PIO gets notice, and the PIO would be think that that commission is working. So just to yes.
The other commissioners would be having what kind of waiting period?
I think disposal, they are also working quite good. Like, I mean, our Chief Information Commissioner, Mr. Arvind Shukla, he has also brought down the this pending appeals quite well. And earlier, like, I mean, when we had joined, there were like, I mean, 50,000 appeals were pending. Now it's been reduced 15,000, 15, and now it's been reduced to 6,000.
You have 2 employees only, you said, given by the commission. Is this uniform for all the commissioners, or are you specially?
The Chief Information Commissioners, of course, he has more staff.
About how many?
He had, like, I mean, 6, 7 staff with him.
And the other commissioners?
Some of them have more than 2, and but most of them have just two staff.
But this is, I would suggest, I don't know, my submission is the commission should take it up seriously before the media and the government and say that this makes no sense. The commissioner is the costliest person in a commission.
That's right.
And therefore, appointing commissioner, not appointing staff, sounds like, it doesn't seem to make sense.
I agree.
The media doesn't talk.
Media doesn't talk about it. Of course not. Mainstream media has no interest in RTI applications and RTI issues. So we've been sort of like trying to put it through the mainstream media, but because of probably it doesn't get them the TRP they're looking for.
Okay, sir. Let's take the participants' questions.
Yes, sir. So before I can share questions from the participants, there was something that I personally wanted to ask you. So the question is, how much can non-profits like us the work that we do, how much of the work that, say, an organization like Money Life does aid in reducing the burden on an information commissioner or on the PIO? I'll share an example. So we've recently developed a RTI app where you can ask a question, and our panel of experts will respond to that. So that, to an extent, will give common citizens some ground rules and some ideas on what is the basics of RTI. So how much do you think applications and technological help from the civil society help the government officials?
Well, as you have said, like, we have also set up this GRD desk. So I'm seeing it like, people are hugely benefited because of such initiatives. First thing is that, they think that, what I have found that, there's a lack of awareness, acute lack of awareness among people about how they will be going about the RTI. Still, it's been 2005, this act was introduced, and we are having this webinar in 2021. And in 2021, we are talking about it. And people, they would go to advocates, in district level. They would approach advocate to file their RTI. So I always come across this appeal in a legal format, that the legal paper and all. And they take help of lawyers to file their RTI. And with this help desk and the initiative you're talking about, it basically help a lot, and in assisting these applicants, and also the PIOs, if they want to know about some provisions in the Act, or the citation of some High Court or court judgments. So that way, it's a sort of like, I would see it that way, Arvind.
Thank you for that, sir. We have Bhaskar Prabhu, sir, a very senior activist from Mumbai, who's been using the app since the beginning. Bhaskar, sir, can I request you to please unmute and share your question? Bhaskar, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir, your audio is fine.
Rahul ji. And it was a fantastic talk. I would say that in Maharashtra, I am talking here pertaining to the staff requirement. In Maharashtra, in the beginning itself, the Dr. Joshi, who was the Chief Information Commissioner, he had made a total requirement of the staff that is required for each Information Commissioner. So he had made around 18 staff for the State Information Commission for each Information Commissioner, and 2 additional for Chief Information Commissioner. So like that, he got it sanctioned from the State Government General Administration Department. Of course, the total staff is not given according to the requirement, or they are not deputed, but the commission has their own recommended staff requirement. I just would like to know whether such type of exercise has been done by the Madhya Pradesh Information Commission. This is what I would like to know.
Well, State Information Commission has been interacting with the government to get the staff. And I think the Chief Information Commissioner is basically, he's taking up the issue with the concerned departments.
Bhaskar sir, you'll have to unmute again. Yeah.
Okay, I just want, sir, I just want to know whether there is any official document sent by the Madhya Pradesh government, the requirement of the staff, that means specific for sanctioning. Like it was done in Maharashtra. So they are at least getting out of 18, they are sometimes getting 15, sometimes 14, or like that. But it is never below 12. So I feel that if this exercise is done, that this is the requirement, and these are the numbers required, including drivers, the peons, the clerks, the translators, the legal advisor, everything they have provided like that. So I just want to know if that is done, and if it is published in the Madhya Pradesh itself, then the activists will force on the government to give the staff to the government. Because as per to the Right to Information Act, it is mandatory for the government to provide the required staff. That is what is written in the act. So I feel that this clause has to be used and pressure has to be done. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Bhaskar Prabhuji. Yes, I did speak with Chief Information Commissioner, and he had told me that he's been taking up this issue. So definitely, it means that some sort of like documents being sent from the Commission as well to the state government for the redressal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, we have received a question from one of our members. So the question is this. Actually, I'll give some context to that. Both you and Gandhi sir, both of you have shown that digitization of information and digitization of information commissions is not a big, tough job. You can do it if you have the will to do it. But despite it being so easy, we are still living in a very old era in the sense that things are not. So we are still living in a very old school way where we're still not digitized. So what do you think is the problem? Why is it that information commissions have not been able to adapt as much as, say, other people have been able to?
You mean to say that information commissions are not...
I mean, why is it that they're not digitized, and why is it that information is not so easily and readily available when it is shown that it's not a tough job to do that? Gandhi sir did it in 2008. And now you're doing it in 2020. So 12 years, and we have very few examples of information commissions being digitized.
So it all depends on the top boss. In the government machinery, it all depends on the top boss. So if the top boss thinks that this has to be done, and it will be done. So what happened, I think, people are basically, those who were there at the helm of the affairs, probably they were not that comfortable with computer and technology. That's what I feel. Because if you haven't used if a part of being the part of the government as a government officer, if you haven't used the laptop, computers, and kind of mechanism it has, you get issues sorted out through mail. So people are basically at times they appear more skeptical about the entire mechanism, and that's how it's been installed. Otherwise, we would have this IT. Even I have spoken with someone who is the heading IT. So he was presenting me his sort of plan for the RTA as well. Like I was talking about the MIS system. He was talking about on similar line. He was saying that the entire grid of PIOs and FAOs and commission should be connected. So there are people who has got vision, but the moot question is who is going to implement it. And that's why we are still facing. Shailesh Gandhi sir ne kiya, uske baad abhi bhi hum kar rahe hain. So it's because of that approach.
Gandhi sir, any comments that you would like to add on this?
Mr. Rahul Singh is the exception. Most commissioners don't care. Most commissioners are not concerned about RTI or about their jobs. A majority of them are retired bureaucrats who look at it as a post-retirement sinecure. It's looked at as a senior citizens club. As I said, Mr. Rahul Singh is the exception to that. And Mr. Rahul Singh probably feels in a similar manner, but he's constrained not to talk like that.
It's like basically, it's about your approach. See, since I've come from media, but then, that wouldn't make any difference, because even in media when I was there, so I used to ask uncomfortable questions. So it was not the kind of PR questions these journalists do it now. So it's more of because of the uncomfortable questions and the burning issues and all. So I have got a knack of going against the sort of kind of things which been set, like, I mean, that you have to do it according, I mean, this is the set norm and you have to follow that. So I got a knack of just challenge the authority, and I mean, like, I mean, here I would give example, like, I mean, so what happened, I was dealing with a case where again a pension kind of issue and salary anomaly issue was there, and it was basically related to some district, and from district you have division and then the state capital and all. So I had issued notices, and these people were not responding, and information was not provided. So one after another, I was, in every appeal, I would take their senior, rope their senior in and make them accountable. And immediately, I, got held the top boss of that department, the additional chief secretary, accountable for that. I directly summoned him. I said, it's your responsibility, accountability, your department is not functioning. So that was kind of approach. Others won't do it because, I mean, they think that, like, I mean, it was unnecessarily get them attention, sort of, or they probably carry with their kind of relations they have in bureaucratic circle. So they don't basically pull the top boss. But I've been doing it, and as a result, what happened? I mean, the issue which was stalled, this guy was, I mean, the appellant was fighting in High Court as well, and he couldn't, even despite the High Court order, he couldn't get any information related to it. And when I had made the top boss of the department, the additional chief secretary responsible for that, he immediately got the replies and the documents required. So that's how, like, I mean, if you have the guts to do it, you can do it. Like, I mean, it's all about your own individual perception and all your commitment and the belief you have. And that basically, I think that plays an important role in whatever decisions you take.
Thank you for that, sir. Bhaskar sir, you'll have to unmute for your question. So can you please unmute and share your question? Okay, I think he's... Bhaskar sir, can you hear me?
Yes, surely. I hope am I able to hear?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
I just want to. I really appreciate Rahulji for having 60 to 70 interns in his commission, which will be wonderful thing. So I would appeal that if you can take the monitoring of that is under section 19(8)(a)(6). You can call for all the section 4 manuals from the public authorities and tell these interns to see whether section 4 of each department is completed. If you see the 19(8)(a)(6), it is very clearly written, which I am now following up with the commission, is by providing it with annual report in compliance with clause B of section 1 of section 4. Subsection 1 of section 4. That means the commission has a mandatory responsibility of calling for the section 4 manuals and monitoring themselves whether the public authority is publishing section 4 properly or not. By this, I think and the second I always talk repeatedly again and again is that every application that comes to the commission has to be seen whether that information was falling under section 4. If it falls under the section 4, then the commission can by default give some type of a token compensation to the applicant, so that it will become a mandatory for a public authority to see whether they are doing publishing section 4 properly or not. I believe if you can see the possibilities of this suggestion which I am giving you. And about the staff, which I have said, that in the Act, if you see, it is 12(6), it is for the Central Commission, and 16(6), subsection 16, section 16, subsection 6 is for the state government. I think somebody can take an initiative in Madhya Pradesh to file a contempt on government for not giving the staff as per to the mandatory staff providing for the commission. This is my suggestion. Thank you.
That's a good suggestion, Bhaskar Prabhuji. In fact, I had shared with you earlier that we had I had a meeting just yesterday and with the National Law University students, and they've been given a task that that they would be scanning, all the departments. But then this is much more easier kind of thing. Like if we ask under Section 19(8), if we can ask them to provide the compliance report, then it would be much more easier. Like it would make every public authority to respond to it, and that's how we can address the issue. So we'll do it, and probably I would ask one of my interns to give you a call, and so that the this entire, they can formalize the applications with the commission.
Yeah, thank you. So now there are a couple of questions in the comments that we have received. So one question is from Navneet. Navneet's question is, can I, being a resident of UP, can I file a RTI in MP? Most probably asking the Information Commissioner the number of employees they have. I think this was in connection with the previous point that you had made. So I think, can a resident of UP file an RTI in MP?
Yes. Why not? Any Indian can file RTI from anywhere.
Actually, in connection with it, there's another question that I had. So recently, there was a Gujarat High Court judgment which has come out very recently, which said that you need to have a bona fide interest in the case.
I was thinking of that. I was thinking of that some PIO would be misusing it, denying the information, saying what Lokesh Chandy, this applicant has, Navneet has, since he's from, he can't be seeking information in MP.
So how seriously do you think is that going to affect the whole act itself? Because it's affecting.
I tell you, Arvind, it's basically, it's more of misinterpretation, which is causing more harm to RTI. So though court has said something in some other context, in a specific context. Now, what happened, the PIOs and other people, even at times the State Information Commissioner, the Central Information Commissioners, they misinterpreted it and they get it, that the person has no bona fide interest and can't, so he can be denied the information. I would see it as a completely wrong way of adjudicating the appeal. No, it should not be done.
So I'd like to add, there is a Supreme Court judgment which categorically states that no motivation or reason needs to be given for getting RTI. Therefore, this judgment of the Gujarat High Court is a per incurium judgment, as it's called. It's illegal. It cannot contradict a Supreme Court order.
Thank you.
I agree.
There's another question that we have received. The question is, most of the RTI queries are replied on the 29th or the 30th day by the CPIO and then sent through ordinary post, even after requesting the CPIO to send it through an email provided, which in turn increases the number of days of reply being received to 40 to 50. So they reply on the 30th day, the speed post takes another 5-6 days. So then the information reaches on the 40th day or 45th day or so on and so forth. So what can be done to avoid this kind of a situation, or what action can be taken against the CPIO to ensure that this doesn't happen again?
Well, the action can be taken against the PIOs because legally speaking, if you talk to any, those who are from the, those who are having the law background, they would know for sure that it's been, the stipulated time period is fixed, like the 30 days. So it includes the even sending the this post even. It includes that. So it's not like that after 30 days or at just like on the 29th, the PIO would be responding to the applicant. No, the act is very clear that information is to be provided within 30 days. And if the it doesn't count the postal kind, whatever postal delays there. So it has to be included in that. And I would say that the PIO needs to be sensitized in that way, that they should and Arvind, what's happening? I mean, there are rules, specific rules. Like Act is there, and besides that, you have the every state information commission and the Central Information Commission. They got their own rules. Like the General Administration Department would be charting out the rules how the PIO would be functioning, and no one has accessed that. We are talking about Act, and what about the rules? Rules are also there, and rules say that the PIO, once the application, once they receive the application, within 3 days they will be doing this, another 2 days they will be doing that, and next 5 days they will be doing that. Entire thing is clearly charted out in rules, but no one takes cognizance of the rules. So what we need to do, what I am now doing, is that I have access all the old rules and the format and whatever the GAD department has made. No PIO is using that. Even for they're supposed to maintain, that is called Papatra 5. It has 15 columns. No one is maintaining that 15 columns. In Papatra 6, they are supposed to maintain a 6-column register. So these 2 registers are not being maintained. What they are maintaining is that a column mein kab information aaya, next column that when information was provided, and these kind of generic kind of things are there, but not the elaborative kind of 15 column, which basically talks about that if PIO floated in terms of timely disposal, it would be reflected there in that column. So what, because the commissioners, even they don't have idea about the rules, they don't follow it, and PIOs definitely they don't care for it, so they don't follow.
There is another question that Navneet has shared. His question is, we being normal citizens, many times don't know how the government department works. So how can we know more so that the PIO may not reject the information without any good reason, and we can file the good RTIs with less problems like multiple transfers or rejections and so on and so forth?
Well, I would say that I have seen Mr. Bhaskar Prabhu speaking about it quite clearly, that how the person should know their subject. If they want to file RTI, at least they should start knowing the department first, and what it mandates. Like what is the roles and the function of that department, and how many employees are there, what are their roles, and these are all there in Section 4. So if you would access the Section 417 point manual, you would know the department inside out. And then probably with their roles and objective, you can, you go deeper and do your homework. And then you ask a question which would basically get you response. So that's why you need to know your subject first. I have seen people asking frivolous questions without putting their head into it. Like, what they want to know. At times, these informations are already in public domain. Like the Panchayat Darpan website is there. So they have the details there, but still they keep on filing. So that's what I would say, that, person, the RT applicant should know the subject well, and then they can proceed. Like, probably Bhaskar Prabhuji would be good in explaining, like, these things.
Thank you. Gandhi sir, any questions, any thoughts that you want to share on this?
I think Mr. Rahul has addressed all the questions very well, and probably both participants and you together have asked all the relevant queries. So I personally have no. And initially itself, I had a slightly long chat with Mr. Rahul Singh. So,
Thank you, sir. So I think we'll now head to the closing of the event. But before I request our speakers and our others to share their closing comments, just a couple of things that I wanted to share. I had mentioned in the beginning of this presentation itself that we have now been working on an application, on a right to information application. My colleague will share a link to that. So the RTI application is something that lets you ask questions to a panel of experts who can then help you resolve or provide you guidance on how to use and how to file an effective RTI application. So do download the app, and then you can also view a tutorial on our website, Money Life TV, on our YouTube channel. So do have a look at that too. And with that, I would now request Gandhi sir to share a few closing comments. Sir, over to you.
RTI is a fantastic empowerment tool that we have in the country today. We have one of the best transparency laws in the world, which unfortunately is not being implemented in the right spirit and word of the law. And I think RTI activists, other citizens, all of us need to defend this. What I'm finding is last 6-7 years, RTI is being attacked and mutilated. And to some extent, civil society is not very active about opposing that. And now we are seeing if RTI is attacked, the freedom of speech and the freedom to publish will also fall in line, because Article 19(1)(a) covers all of these, right? But I think using it, and Mr. Rahul Singh has taken some initiatives to encourage women to use RTI. That's another segment of our population that for some reason I've never been able to understand is a very small user of RTI. There's just no reason why that should happen. And I'm hoping that more women take to it. And I think RTI is a great future if we have commissioners like Mr. Rahul Singh. Thank you.
Thank you, Gandhi sir. Thanks a lot, Rahul sir, for joining us today and for helping us understand this. And thank you all for joining once again. Thank you and good night.